What is up, guys, and welcome to Building Doom Eternal, where I'll be coming up with ideas and making my own version of Doom Eternal, and maybe suggesting ideas to Bethesda about what they should do for the next installment in the Doom franchise. So let's just get right into it and start talking about some of my ideas for Doom Eternal. We all know why Bethesda is doing a Doom 2. Now, personally, in my predictions video, I said it was going to be there because the time gap just didn't make sense. And it said ID Software was making Rage. So in my head, I was like, man, this is going to be enough time to make a new Doom game. But what I didn't know is that another studio was helping them make Rage. So, of course, now they had the time. And another reason that I brought up in that video is that most of the heavy lifting has been done. The main core mechanics are finished. They don't have to make new resources. It's gonna seem like Doom 2016, but just overhauled, because they've done all the main combat is done. All those years they spent doing main combat, it's done. They just had to refine those ideas, and the refining process doesn't take that long. Just look at what they're doing with Gears of War 5. They're just doing another refining of Gears 4. So of course it was a quick turnaround. But it was just a nice surprise to see Doom Eternal at E3. But now, let's start off with what they need to do most. We know the campaign's going to be awesome. We know that. So we shouldn't even ponder on that. They say they're going to have twice as many monsters and such. And I trust them. They made a great campaign once. And when they're going all out, they might do it. They're probably going to do it again. But what I'm most worried about, and what they're most worried about, is how they're going to do the multiplayer. The multiplayer in Doom was not that good. People loved it at first, and it had the worst element of any online game that you could have: boredom. It was basic to the bone, and no matter what they did after launch was not enough, because you have to make the first good impression, because months later nobody's going to be playing the game. Multiplayer wise, sure, they stuck around for the campaign, and Snap Map was a good addition, even though they should have kept it uncapped for PC, which I should talk about right now. So for all those who don't know, Doom had a mode where you could make your own maps and modes called Snap Map. Now, Snap Map was for the community to keep itself alive with making different modes for itself. Now, of course, on consoles, having memory, you can only do so much, so it's capped. But PC is a more open-ended platform. So let's just say you have a map that can only go so big because it's consoles. Whereas PC, since your computer memory varies so much, you can have as big as a map as your computer can hold. It goes the same with the monsters. And maybe even some Doom people may not realize it, but the monsters, they spawn in there right before you get in there. They're not just there. So the computer, the system has limits. Well, with PC, you could have 1,000 on the screen at once. But Bethesda capped it with consoles stupidly, so that consoles and PC could be in this one jointed togetherness. Like, it was weird. It was like, now PC, if you made a map on PC, it could be on consoles, which is okay for consoles. Doesn't really benefit. It just didn't benefit anything. All it did was make it easier for Bethesda to push it out. And this time, they need to have it uncapped, so its community can make as big as maps as they want, and it'll keep it alive from years and years and years, and probably benefit them in live service, them releasing more content for creators, charging them to give them more assets to make with. And that could be a big thing for Bethesda. So they have to make it uncapped, so you could have unlimited potential. So that's my thoughts on that. And they're probably gonna do it. They see it's not really working with Fallout with their kind of monetization plans. So they are gonna really try and do it in this. And it'll be a fair agreement with the fans. I don't see a Fallout coming because of that. So now, let's go to the main meat of this episode, and that is multiplayer. Well, I've been coming up with some ideas, pondering on it. I would add a new thing called ability slots. Now we know the monotonous gameplay, even though it's a good engine that has good gameplay, it can get tiresome and boring at times doing the same kind of thing over and over again with no variety. And the one thing I was shocked that Bethesda didn't take advantage of is their monsters that they have in their campaign. What Doom is most famous for, probably, and its gameplay. So, these 3 ability slots would grant you a power from one of the monsters that you would see in the Doom campaign. So let's just start with the Imp. If you choose the Imp, you would get his abilities, maybe some of his mobility, maybe some of his fire. You'll be able to shoot a fireball in one of the slots. Then you can run on walls and stuff like that, and hang on to walls and do angle shots. That'd be good for a sniper class. It would be hard for somebody to see you coming, and you could just snipe them from a wall. Doesn't require any movement, and that would be great. So then you have that those ability slots that come with it. There is an ultimate. Now each monster has an ultimate, and the player could choose, similar to the way that Doom 2016 had it, where you could turn into the monster. But the thing is that turning into the monster is still not enough. So what I propose is it's a mix. So let's just say each monster has its own ultimate. Now I'll go more into this when I talk about Doom Ball, the first mode that I want to speak on when I'm talking about what we should do in the multiplayer. But these powers will be mixed together. So let's just say the Cacodemon, that he flies, right? That's a good example. He flies, right? Well, in multiplayer, if you have one of his flying abilities, you'll be able to float for 4 seconds. Or you could have the Imp's fireball ability, or you can have both in 2 slots. Not only does this create variety, not only can you make DLC packs surrounded by that and expansions and have never-ending content on that side that constantly changes up the core gameplay, but kind of keeps the other side of the core gameplay intact, the competitive side, without breaking up, the speciality, and don't make it repetitive and boring. And that's what the progression system should be like in the first one, but hopefully Bethesda is able to rectify that mistake in Eternal. So we got the ability slots, we got what the ultimates should be. So now let's just get into the main thing, the multiplayer. What mode should be in it? So now I want to start with the returning modes and how they should be redone, some of them. So let's just start off with Warpath. It needs to be remastered. It is a great idea for a mode, but I felt like it was never finished. And more importantly, Bethesda did not implement something that was so big, the AI, PvPvE. That is the future. They when they did Doom and they didn't do that, I was shocked, because having those monsters a part of the multiplayer would have changed the whole dynamic, and it would have shifted the multiplayer spectrum. People might have been copying. Of course, people didn't copy Titanfall when they did it, because Titanfall was never that popular. But Doom's like one of the first big first-person shooters, so everybody's kind of played Doom. It has more impact and meaning than Titanfall having AI in its multiplayer. And that's why they thought they could do a revolutionary step. And when I saw the modes trailer, I was so disappointed. Freeze tag? Really? Is the Doom franchise has freeze tag in its multiplayer? I mean, can you see what I'm saying? How that doesn't mix? That is just poor mode design. Like, you couldn't come up with anything more impressive than that, but we know why. They outsourced it to another company. I think it was Raven Software who did the Gears of War multiplayer. So and then they tried to come in at the end and finish the multiplayer in a better way, but the damage had already been done. Most people had already left, played the campaign, and just dipped out. So it's just important that they have those modes that keep people coming back. And Warpath, this version of Warpath that I've come up with, is that it follows the same premise. You go along a path and you get the objective right, but the objective disappears at a certain time. And when it disappears and reappears, there will be neutral monsters in it. And you will have to clear out those monsters. So now it is you versus the other team, but it is you versus the AI versus the other team. So it's a three-way fight. Has a little chaos in it, but still retains that competitive edge in it once it's all said and done. So like, let's just say the first 2 minutes the monsters come out. You know, by the time maybe a minute and a half later, there'll probably be no more monsters left. You know, and then it'll be like that team, but it'll give it that little bit of pizzazz to it. You know, it doesn't need, because these the 5 moves I'm going to mention, the new moves that they should do, will prove that, you know, this will be just a back thing. It'll just be a mode in the back, an extra on top of an already great multiplayer. So Warpath Remastered, they need to bring back Last Man Standing. That's obvious a mode that they should bring back. People really liked it in Doom, and it's just a common sense mode just to bring back. It's a fan favorite mode, you know, for parties, for people in parties, you know, that high adrenaline mode. So yeah, obviously Last Man Standing should come back. Clan Wars should come back, of course. Then Soul Harvest, you know, that kill confirmed classic. Maybe they could do a little spin on that. I couldn't think of one, but you know, this Bethesda, they can think of pretty much anything if they put their mind to it. And then the most important thing I want to come to is Domination Remastered. And this mode really needs to get remastered in this style of PvPvE. I think it won't disrupt the style if you have monsters in the middle of the action and helping it flow, helping bad players seem a little bit better. And then you bring that campaign feel to the multiplayer, which is what Doom really needs. It needs a hint of its campaign dropped and sizzled on the multiplayer. Really actually overhauled in the multiplayer to make it seem different and to stand out among the stiff competition that's going to have in 2019 or maybe early 2020 that it comes out. So obviously Domination would be a perfect mode. It still would be a mode in the background, as I'm going to show y'all later in the video. But Domination would be 6v6, and throughout that whole match, monsters are attacking both sides and making sure to keep the multiplayer keeping fluid and full for easy players. So as you can see, when you add, you know, necessary 2 modes that really couldn't hold their own, and when you add that element into it, it makes it not only much more appealing mode, but a mode, if it had been applied in the past games, would have probably kept people coming. But now let's get to the new modes. The modes I've come up with ideas for, and I've sat down, literally I've sat down like a day thinking about it, you know, what Doom could do to make its multiplayer revolution. I finally got 5 brand new modes, and this is what made me so ashamed with Bethesda. Even Raven Software. Come on, guys. Is that the best y'all could do with the Doom IP? I mean, really? So here are 5 ideas that I came up with in literally a day span of thinking of ideas for this episode. So let's just start with the simple thing is that Doom did not have a death match at launch. Now this will seem so wrong because Doom was the first game to have death match in gaming history. But then when they reboot the thing, they don't even have deathmatch at launch. There's just something so wrong about it. The first time that has ever been seen, you did it. And then years later when you're redoing it, you don't have it. So it's just ridiculous. So here's my idea. Slayer. Slayer is a mode where it's you versus everybody plus AI. So you're just going at it with everybody. You're picking up guns that fall on the field. It's an arcade-like experience. You know, you pick up guns. You first 1 to 100. Any person lead, they can do a super. And it also feeds into the progression system where you would have different abilities. So you would see everybody's different abilities on display, and you would feel different than everybody else. Mostly. You could see the same abilities. If you see somebody flowing, you would know that they have this ability. And you know you could counter with this ability to combat that. So it would be an overall fluid. Even Team Slayer, would have this in it, you know, and the monsters would be on two different sides depending on who which side of the map you're on. So if you go on one side, you'll have enemy monsters, but if you go on another side, you'll have friendlies. So that would be awesome, you know, because you're constantly moving around. So you're moving in and out of enemy territory and in between. So that would be a good mix of team, not only Slayer, but Team Slayer. Now, here's the most important part is that each mode needs to have depth. And when I was thinking about this episode, I was like, what is the most depth but can still be in one system? And I thought of some similar to what Doomari has. It's kind of like throw the ball in the goal, and that is Doom Ball. But Doom Ball is not the thing that Bethesda did. I can't remember the name. I probably have it up there. Doom Ball is you are the monster, and you have guns. So literally, you are the monster. You have guns. There are 5 different classes at launch. Well, there could be more than 5. I expect it to be 10, but that would be with the new monsters that Bethesda has not unveiled yet. Then you have the Summoner, which we saw in Doom's campaign. This class can levitate for 4 seconds, can throw those skulls that, you know, it'll have auto-targeting skulls, basically. Then it would have a teleport dodge ability, and its ultimate would be it would put away all its weapons, and it would rise up. You know, it can't protect itself, and it could summon monsters to fight for it. And to balance that out, it can't protect itself at all, and it'll be levitating in the air for somebody for somebody to shoot. So, and plus it can issue commands, and that's the kind of strategistic part of being the summoner, is that you would have to make sure there are enough monsters by you. Then you can tell the monsters to go attack the ball or a certain player that you target out. So what if that player just comes on by and just kills you? Well, then you're dead, and then you lose your, you know, ultimate. So it's just, that would be the more strategy class, but with mastering, that would be a very powerful class. So then you would have the super zombie. Now, I know the zombie was kind of like, you know, the level 1, you know, easy stuff. But the way I was thinking about the zombie is that it could bring back people from the dead. So let's just say a player kills you, but they don't hit you extra, or somebody attacks them right when they're about to finish you off. You can get back up and start slowly regaining health. The zombie doesn't really have a lot of amazing skill, whereas, you know, it has pure durability, and plus it can duplicate itself into like slower zombies. So if you kill the main one, the player will transfer into the other zombie, which will only have like a certain weapon. It'll have like the side blaster, and it'll have limited health. So if he kills that player and keeps going, he'll eventually go back into the ground and come back up as the main warrior, you know, the main zombie. So it's kind of like holding out those 20 seconds of being a weaker version of the zombie, but just narrowly escaping death. And then his last ability would be to let out a scream, which tells nearby allies where a certain enemy is. So let's just say the zombie is near, you know, there's the player with the ball, there's one enemy trying to go kill him, and then there's, you know, the zombie trailing behind. If the zombie lets out the call, the player will realize that, you know, this other player is trailing him, and all the other players, you know, would know for 5 seconds. So then, you know, you got the player can drop the ball, then he could turn around and engage the other player. So that would be another value of the zombie. And the zombie's ultimate would be that he could raise teammates from the dead, giving them a health and damage boost for a certain amount of time. And plus, if he kills his enemy, he can raise his enemy as an undead AI, or he can take control of that enemy and get all their powers. And if he can survive long enough, get their ultimate. And then his final ability would be whenever he switches from his self that has been killed, he would retain his primary weapon and won't have to rely on the zombie's weak blaster. But he would still have low health, but he would still have his primary weapon would switch over, making it the version really way more deadly than it would be. Then you would have the Mancubus class. he can charge his kind of sniper beam that he would have on his side, and the sniper beam would be, obviously maybe one hit kill, but it's super hard to aim. So if you miss, then you would have to wait for the beam to recharge. But then another ability he would have is that he could have another blaster. You could either have either or the sniper or the sort of beam blaster on his back to cover his backside because he moves really slow. So if he's moving really slow, he might not see somebody come behind him, and his back is very weak. So he could have a weapon there, not only to let him know somebody's back there, but to, kind of wait. It's kind of more of a not. It's not gonna stop him, the enemy, because the enemy will be way too fast. But it's kind of like a letting you know I'm here. It's kind of like a surveillance ability. So you can either have the sniping ability, which would probably be more better for attackers, and then you would have the sort of conservative ability of having kind of like that shooting mechanic behind you and letting you know that somebody's trying to come up behind you. And then his last ability would be a rapid fire mode for his main primary weapon, the little blasters. But at one time he could cancel out all his other abilities and go into this mode where he is shooting a lot of bullets at one time. If somebody's close, that'd be a fast way to get him out of your way. So then his ultimate would be he could see through walls. Then he would gain a minigun that he could pull out of his back and really cause damage for anybody that's in front of him. And then he would also have a mount turret come out of his back. And this mount turret would be more offensively effective against somebody trying to come behind him. It could look always front and back. So the only thing that could really stop is a sniper from a distance or a really fast player that can shoot the mounted turret off his back and really start to take advantage of his slower movement. Then we have the Baron, and the Baron can charge enemies, do a sort of splash fireball to get enemies that are close to him away from him and cause damage to them. Then he can have a far fireball ability. It's strong, but it's very not. It's not what you would say very quick. It's a slow, hard fireball. If hit, it could cause some real damage to you because most of the Baron's attacks are going to be up close. Now, and just to prove to you, the ultimate, he'll be able to charge and do a ground pound move. Then he can breathe fire out of his mouth, kind of getting all the close people who are running by, like that are running fast around him. He could just start shooting fire, kind of canceling that out, making them back up. And then he can use his blades that we saw in the trailer of Doom Eternal, the blades and their one hit kill for everybody but the Mancubus and maybe one other class I can't remember right now. So yeah, any other class, that's a one hit kill blade, but you can only swing it one time. Not to be cheap, but you can only swing it one time for every 5 or 7 seconds. And if you miss, you will slow down for like a period of time for like maybe 3 seconds. So it's kind of like give your all on one swing, and if you miss, oh god, you're in trouble. So that's kind of the end of the Doom Ball aspect. I mean, it can be really deep and really fun because we've never really seen anything like it. But now let's get into another mode, and that is Legion, or basically one-man army. And in this mode, one man is a super powered monster. Beyond what we've covered. There you can pick different classes like it. It's basically the same idea, but all the other players have to hunt down this one monster, and the goal is that the person who is the monster has to get the most kills before time runs out. So if you die as the monster, whoever killed you becomes the monster. Then it has to top your kill score. So let's just say if I went up first and I got 5 kills, well then the next person or somebody else in the game throughout the period of maybe a 15-20 minute game will have to in total get more than 5 kills and beat my score to go on top. And whoever has the most kills as the beast or the monster at the end of that time wins. And the reason why this would be so good, not only for parties, not only for competitive, that would just be great just for basic Doom fans, that mode where you can feel all powerful against a squad of people. Not only does it give power to the player who's being the person, but it gives coordination and, strategy for the people going opposite to that. And that'd be a great one. Another mode I'd like to discuss is really big. And this mode is called Super Gun Game. And what Super Gun Game is that every 5 minutes of the 15-minute game, every 5 minutes, a new piece of gun comes in. So let's just say for the first 5 minutes or 3 minutes or how many increments they do, well, I'm going to say 5, there is maybe pistols, shotguns, or regular stuff, right? And what the special thing about this mode is that you can combine the guns together and make something entirely new, and plus mix it with abilities that you find the field like invisibility. So like every 5 minutes you'll get better and better guns coming out, and not only we have those guns, but you'll still have the base guns that you start with of each increment. So let's just say pistols start off, pistols, shotguns, all the regular guns. Then you get the super guns next, and then you start mixing those up, and then you got triple mixes and see what comes out. So it's basically just a whole bunch of mixing guns together, seeing what comes out, see what new gun. It's basically just creating a gun and sticking with the best guns that you can create. And as it gets further into the game, it gets crazier and crazier, the guns that you can make. And this will keep people coming back because, man, who would want to make that dream gun? You can bet your friend, I'm going to make that dream gun. No, you're not. It's just like everybody can find, and not more importantly, not just finding it, but discovering the point of discovering what you could find. That's the real great part. And they can add weapons, which will make it even more interesting with the new weapons that they can add to Gun Game. And it just seemed like that would make its own mode, and it would just stand out. And now let's get to this final mode, and it's called Desolation. And what Desolation is a mode where it's 5v5, and you have to take out, it's basically last team standing. But instead of you just dying and watching your teammate, you turn to a monster. And what this causes is that, let's just say it's a 4-on-1 situation. You have killed, only one person's dead, and you have killed, 5-on-1. That'd be 5-on-1. Basically, the game will start putting pressure on you because there are 4 active monsters seeking out your team. It's putting pressure on your team to finish the job. So the more you take out, the more pressure it is on your team. And it'll be intense right up until the end. There's hardly going to be everywhere it's a blowout, because then you'll have the monster seeking you, and then it's going to be hard to seek the player while you're being hunted by monsters, and you could die. So you got to fend them off while trying to find the player. And it just creates this constant back and forth conflict that you can make it competitive or just fun. And that's just a real great part about it. And just these modes on top of the modes that are coming back, that's 10 modes. It's 5 refined modes of the old games, and 5 brand new modes that will keep players coming back because each of them have depth in them. And that's what Bethesda really needs in Doom. They need modes that keep you coming back, and you have favorites, and each game gives you a whole different experience. And we haven't even thought about Snap Map. Snap Map is going to be a revolution in itself, especially what Bethesda can improve on it and have a live service built around it long term. But it doesn't really matter. The multiplayer has to be great. The campaign can be great. We've already seen it with Doom 2016. The campaign could be great. The Snap Map could be awesome. But without that multiplayer to keep people coming back, the game is going to die in 6 months. And that's why I laid out all these reasons and all these ideas of how they could prolong and make this really a true live service game, but make it a revolutionary game that is fully complete. Great campaign, great multiplayer, great Snap Map, and really just lead the revolution for PvPvE. because I can't see any other way that they could revolutionize this game in the multiplayer department without putting in those campaign monsters that made the game so notable. So, man, this was a long episode, guys. Thank you for watching. This is Godzilla Suplex. Hit that subscribe button so you can see more of my content that is coming this week and next week as I cover multiple stuff in the gaming industry. This is Godzilla Suplex, and see you on the next building whatever game we do next.